Alright, ladies and gentlemen, today I am reviewing, in honor of the holiday season, the film Gremlins, a 1984 release, because that was one of my favorite movies as a kid. I watched it again. It's one of those things, the movies I've already seen, I will permit myself not to give them full attention. I will permit myself to be like drafting while I'm watching them. So Gremlins is a movie I've already seen it several times. I watched it once again just for the sake of this video, and I have to say it is a lot darker than I remember. Now, I have heard that Gremlins as a film is what created the PG-13 rating. I do not believe that is true. It may have contributed to the PG-13 rating, or the need thereof, but Gremlins is the story of an inventor who finds a bizarre pet named Gizmo for his son, and it turns out that this pet is sort of a generator of gremlins. Okay? Which, if you don't know, gremlins throughout mythology are mischievous. They're kind of like evil gnomes, often ugly. Dog-faced gremlins are a thing, and they're just monsters that destroy things. And there's several iterations of what the gremlin is. There are gremlins that used to live in mines and screw with miners if the miners didn't give them part of their lunch, things like that. But gremlins in this particular, they appear very reptilian in nature. They're scaly. They may have hair. They have insectivorous teeth with sharp little teeth. And they go around and they just destroy everything. And this is bad. So this is a PG-13 horror movie. I look at this movie and I think, wow. This movie is dark. I didn't remember. Corey Feldman is in this film, plays a little kid, and I'm like, wow, I remember him from the guy. I don't remember why I didn't notice him in this film. Because one of my favorite actors of the 80s was Feldman, and he's kind of disappeared from the spotlight now. Although I think at the moment, Corey Feldman, if you look him up, he is doing something regarding child abuse. He's a crusader against child abuse. So there's that. But, yes. This film is incredibly dark. There is a scene in the beginning. This woman comes up. A woman and her two children come up to this older woman who is associated with the town bank. And she says, it's like, look, I'm wondering if you could talk to the bank manager and give me an extension on I think it's a mortgage. It never specifically says. And, the woman says, the bank's here to make money, as am I. And, pushes her off. And as the camera lingers on this woman, the woman's child says, "Mommy, I'm hungry." And the woman responds to her child, "I know, baby. I am too." Children starving on Christmas. Think about that for a moment. Now, mind you, okay, Reagan enacted his tax policies, I believe, in 81. I'm not dead sure on that. I believe it's 81. So the Reagan tax impact is there in 84. And you could say, well, is this a byproduct of Reagan and the taxes? Because there was an economic slump after Reagan's tax plan. That did happen. And, it's like, wow, there are some evil people in this movie. And then you look at that same old woman who is turning a blind eye to the suffering of a family on Christmas. She wants to kill a dog. She's out there going, I want to have your dog put down because your dog messed up. And it's like, that is just evil. She's out there with the imported Bavarian snowman. It's like, I don't believe you purchased an imported Bavarian snowman because you frickin' hate Christmas and you're so old and decrepit you couldn't put it up. So, it's like you found that broken head and went to this guy. Oh, so dark. Really, this is too dark for a kid's movie. I watched this as a kid. I didn't have nightmares or anything. I enjoyed it. But as an adult, this film has so much more of an impact on me. I can't really say much for the acting. I mean, this is not a film that tried its actors very hard. So again, as there is nothing wrong with the performances in this film, the performances are spot on for what they need to be. You feel the characters and you believe them. They are almost like cartoon characters. They're not taking the situation seriously. You know, there is a point in this film when two police officers are confronted with the Gremlins, and rather than being, I don't know, police officers getting out of the car and saying, "Get your billy club, we got to beat these things off," they sort of stand there and talk. Which, I mean, I've dealt with police officers, and there certainly are those that would stand there and talk while something like this is going on. There are also police officers that would spring into action and save a life, which is what you would expect a police officer to do in this situation. So, again, there is a suspension of disbelief in that people would behave this way. I mean, quite frankly, if you had a bunch of monsters running through your city, I doubt you'd be trying to stop them. I think you'd more be running away. Now, that's a suspension of disbelief we have to make because, you know, if we don't, then there's no movie. But there are other ways to handle that. So, yeah, I mean, again, I loved Gremlins as a kid. It was a really awesome movie. The special effects in this were a lot more convincing to me at the time because I was a dumb little kid. I didn't know how these things work, but the puppetry here is really very, very well done. But I don't know. I guess if you have 14-year-olds, because it's PG-13, so parental guidance suggested under 13, you look at your kids and say, yeah, would I want them to watch this movie with these very dark themes? That's what you have to do. Again, Gremlins is one of the great classics of the 80s. It is hard to say anything bad about this film. It was a very well done film. I really enjoyed it as a kid. As an adult, I look at this film and I see what's going on in our society, and it's so much darker to me now because I guess I can feel the pain of this family who are likely to be homeless during the winter because I think the husband lost their job. Exploring these darker themes is important for media, so I'm going to grant that, but then I have to say, this is a kid's movie. Although I happen to know, or at least I've seen documentary footage where people said that originally this was not going to be a kid's movie. It was going to be rated R. But when they looked at the production budget, they said, there's no way we can get this under an R rating in the early 80s and make our money back. Which is weird because I believe in the late 80s, R-rated films were the big cash cows, and what we called PG-13 in the 80s is a hard R today. So, you know, be that as it may, Gremlins is a classic film, and it's something that you just pretty much need to watch at some point in your life to be part of the American vernacular. So, that's my statement. Gremlins is an iconic film, and you should probably go watch it, but be aware, it is something of a downer. You may want to sit there with a beer or two, have some good friends, and try not to take it too seriously. In any case, that's my opinion, and I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. I am Richard Leland Neal.